Howdy folks, Little John, and time for a little bit of a video. It's Friday, so why not? Gonna suck a little bit of Little John's honey bourbon. We have a bit of a nutter. Now, we'll have a bit of a chat about today. Something that I've touched on different parts of this subject in previous videos. I've just gone through this morning. I'm going to bottle up a batch of the Loaded Dog Lager later this afternoon. And that combined with I was just watching just this morning a new video from Gash Slug on the Homebrew Network about a couple of his tips for making bottling day or just bottling a little bit easier, and it's got me just sort of thinking I want to do a video just more around just around the bits and pieces that you need to sort of cover when you are bottling. Not going into any great detail at any one thing, but just if you are, and this is going to be more directed to for new brewers, but if you're looking at bottling, the things that you need to sort of look at and take into account and allow for when you are bottling. Now, as I said, I've said it before, and it's just natural that when you start brewing, most brewers start off having to use bottles. You go and buy a kit, they come with PET bottles in the in the pack. Plenty of brewers go off, and it's always been tradition to bottle in. This is not actually Cooper's, but in Cooper's long necks. It's been the mainstay of home brewers for donkey's years. To this day, you go on eBay and you can find plenty of people selling Cooper's long necks. And there's a reason that I'm not going to go into long-winded into the details. But obviously, you need bottles. You can't bottle without them. It's very difficult. You can turn the tap on your fermenter and just let it go, but at the end of the day, it's not going to get you anywhere. You sort of need bottles to put in there to catch the beer. And you find 2 weeks later, after you've done that, it is easier if the actual bottle is in the fridge opposed to the beer still on the floor. So you've got to get bottles. So we've got to track them down. So I said, people tend to, they go to friends, they search eBay, they get on the net, buy, swap and sell places like that and try and find some bottles. So, and invariably you can come up with all sorts of different options. Quite often the case is just, when you want to first start, keep the bottles from the commercial beers you're drinking. So a lot of the time that means stubbies, and it doesn't really matter what kind it is, they're all going to work. But for the most part, we're looking homebrew, you want crown sealed bottles, with the lip that you need to prise the cap off. You can use twist tops, but again, they're not the best option, but you can use them. But ideally you want the crown seals. And again, this is where the Cooper's long necks come into being so popular, because they wear a pop cap, crown seal, and they're a bigger bottle. But more and more commercial beer, especially now with craft beer getting more popular, is available in crown seal, so that it's more they're more readily available, and to a large degree they are a thicker bottle than what the twist top bottle is, so they will hold a little bit more gas once you've done your priming. So first thing, you need to get your bottles. and that can, you know, can come down to, like I said, whatever you can find, or just personal preference. Yeah, I've got a few of these beauties. I haven't got a lot of them. Grolsch bottles. Oh, they got the ceramic popper on top, and they just lock down nice and easy. They're simple. They're great. They vary between about 500 and 650 ml depending on what era they come from. The Grolsch bottles have gotten smaller over time. The beauty of commercialism. So I've got a variety of these bottles, and they're different sizes. These are great, and to a degree they are the holy grail of beer bottles for home brewing. So if you can track yourself down some of these, well worth it. You will pay a good price for them, and quite often you'll see them on sale, like on eBay, and you're looking about $1 a bottle. It seems a little bit excessive, but you get that back over and over. Tops last forever. This whole thing can be replaced if you need to, relatively cheaply, but they last forever and a day. So if you can get hold of them, yeah, great. And again, size doesn't particularly matter, and we'll discuss that as we go along. So you can go for your larger, 500 to 600 ml bottles. I think this is a Rekorderlig, so it's that's an actual cider bottle. So you can use the pint bottles that a lot of the breweries are coming out with now. As I said, of course, you can use long necks. And by and large, these days, long neck bottles are 650, 660 ml. They're no longer 750 ml. I think the Cooper's bottles are still 750, but most of the craft brews are 660. So just be aware that if you are grabbing them, you aren't getting your 750 ml that you used to. Same with stubbies. Most stubbies, especially when you get into the craft beer, like you go for that. That's a it's not a Cooper's bottle, but the Cooper's bottles. But that generally will be a 375. Those little squat bottles are 375 normally. Some are 355. But most of your crafty bottles are 330, so they're a bit smaller. So that variation in size can cause some problems when it comes to actually priming your bottles. Now, priming requires putting some sugar, a form of sugar, into the bottle, which then creates a secondary fermentation, which creates CO2 in the bottle, which gives you your gas and your bubbles in your head. Now, there's plenty of ways you can do that, and the easiest way is to use carb drops. Now, these are the Cooper's ones. There's different brands. Cooper's is normally readily available, and the basis of those carb drops is that you use one in a 375 ml stubby, then you use two in a 750 ml stubby. Plain and simple. Now, as I said, with the difference in sizes of the bottles, with the modern bottles, that can pose a problem with the carbonation drops. Now, carbonation drops have been around as long as home brew has, and that was the day where that was your only option. 375 or 750 was simple. But now that you go down to 660 here and 330 there, it's not a massive difference, but when you start compressing gas into a confined space, if you're creating the same amount of gas which you will from the carb drop in a smaller bottle, now 375 down to 330, that's over 10% difference, and then you start getting issues. And I find quite a lot that if I use a carb drop in one of these fellas, 330 ml, that it is overcarbed. Just quickly on those, it's two bottles that I'm using. One's got no label, one's got a label. Some people like to rip their labels off. I don't particularly care. I just soak them. If it comes off, it comes off. If it doesn't, it doesn't. I don't really worry about it too much. But yeah, if you're going to give them to people, or take them somewhere, then you preferably want no label, or put your own label on them. But as I said, that's again personal preference. So the carb drops can become a little bit difficult. So I use them, and I generally cut them up depending on the brew. Just with a chopping board with a big old butcher's knife, and well, it's actually a cook's knife, but anyway. and I cut them up and I use about 2/3 of a drop, even down to half a drop for beers I'm going to be storing for a bit longer. Now, if you're just doing batch by batch and you're drinking it pretty quickly, then 1 carb drop you'll get away with, because you're going to turn them over before that carbonation level can really get too high. Or if you can keep them refrigerated. But that is something you can learn and play with as you go. But putting 1 drop in a bottle will be fine initially, and you can adjust as you go along. Now, another popular method is to use, as I said, just sugar. And my recommended sugar is this, so yeah, dextrose. And you use one of these little scoops, which has got sugar for 1 bottle, for a stubby or for a long neck. Now these two are designed around the basis of the 375 and 750ml bottles, so you can make have a little bit of allowance for those. It's fiddly and it's a little bit difficult, but they work. Like I said, Dex is my preferred sugar if you're going to use sugar. A lot of brewers still using white sugar, you know, just plain old table sugar. I don't like it, and it's been said on videos before, and I'm not going to go into why, but I don't like to use white sugar. Your other option, because you can use malt, you know, dry malt, which is a less fermentable sugar, so it will be different. So for me, using the dry malt with one of these scoops actually gives you a reasonable carbonation. Bit on the lighter side, but it works really well for darker beers and ambles, stuff that you don't want a really high level of carbonation in. So that can work for that. So you've got your bottles, you've worked out how you want to prime them. You need to get from the fermenter into the bottle, and generally the easiest way of that is one of these fellas, just a bottling wand. Now these come in various sort of combinations. You can buy ones with a little blue end on them, and the end comes off them, they come apart. This one's, nah, not gonna bother. But it's just a little flow control there. They do drip a little bit, you know, none of them ever seal properly, so I used to use a towel underneath where I'm bottling just to cover that, but it's not a lot. And when you put the bottle in, it just lifts the spout off the bottom, lets the beer pour out, and you just keep pouring until your bottle's full. It's straight in the bottom. And the beauty of these fellas is once you get that bottle filled to the top, you take him out and your beer will drop down to right around where you need it to allow head space for that carbonation. So they work really well. And you can just stick that straight in your tap on your fermenter and bottle that way. Or what you see quite often all the guys will do, and it is quicker, is to put this onto a length of hose, obviously food grade, and attach that to the hose, and then just have your bottles lined up, you know, with your sugar already in them. And just go along, 1 bottle, 2 bottles, 3 bottles, and just go along and do them all that way. It's up to you how you want to do that, whichever works for you, and if you've got the space and stuff to do that. It's not a drama. Now that you've got these sugars, there are other things. You can prime with all sorts of things. I've primed with chocolate. In a stout I've used just chocolate that's been mixed, just melted into a small amount of water, and use that to prime the bottles. And it works. Anything that's got sugar in it will work. And of course when you're bottling, I've used honey recently. Honey works really well as for priming, and again has a different effect. And you can put different things in your bottle as you go. And there's a range of things. Just some of the things I've used. A bit of rock salt. I've used rock salt. There's videos where I've had to use rock salt. That's just lime juice cordial. I've used that with priming some cerveza. Again, there's a video on that. Lime juice. Again, cordial, straight lime juices. You can put quite a few things into the bottle. You do have to be aware. Anything that goes in the bottle can create nucleation points, which means when you open the bottle, the CO2 that's in the bottle, if it's got something that it can actually sort of connect to, it's hard to explain the complete science, but if there's an object in that CO2, it can create more CO2 than if there's nothing in there. So you've got to be a little bit careful about what you put in. Whatever you put in is going to dissolve and break down. Try not to put anything in your bottle that's going to stay there. That's not to say it can't be done, because it is. So you filled your bottle, you've got your sugar, your additions, whatever it is you want in there. You need to put a top on in. Most part I just use, I get home brand bottle tops, just grab these from Woolies. They're cheap as chips, mate. They're about bloody $2.30 or something, $2.20 a packet. So just over 2 cents each. There's different brands depending on where you go. If you're buying from a home brew shop, you're going to pay probably twice the price for them, if not more than twice the price. But then you can go and you can get like colours. I've got black ones here, which I bought when I bottled up the stout from a young bloke's wedding. You can get green and red, yellow, white. There's a variety of colours. And some people like to get these and then colour code their beers so they stand out a little bit. I have too many beers going at once, so I just prefer the old plain old gold cap, which I can just write on with a texter, and I just number each brew as I go, so each brew is just kept under control. Now, you need to cap these things, and I've got to grab the capper, so I'm going to grab them. As I said, like we've got the kits, when you're buying the kits, they come with PET bottles, like plastic bottles. I just got a couple of lids here from when I was doing them down the track a while ago. And they're just, you can buy plastic lids for them, you just screw them on. A lot of brewers like to use the PET bottles because you can actually feel when your beer is carbonated, because it gets the bottle will get rock hard with the gas. There is evidence that the PET bottles over an extended period of time will allow oxygen to transfer into the bottle. So for that reason I don't like to use them, because my beers tend to sit around for 6 to 9 months before I've actually finished a batch. And again, that's at a preference thing. The PET bottles are easy to come by. Normally, like your local Big W, your home brew shop will have them. They're cheap. They're easy to work with. You just screw the cap on, and you don't need to have any actual capping equipment, because the caps just screw on by hand. So if you want to go that avenue, that's completely fine. Now, another thing that people have used over the years, and this is one of the original methods, it's a hand capper. And this just sits on the bottle. Put the cap on, you set it on the top, you bang it with a hammer, and it folds the top over. They work. I used one of these for a long time, years ago when I was first got into brewing. Sit the bottle on a brick and tap it on with a hammer. I never lost a bottle, never broke a bottle the whole time I was capping, but a lot of people say they do break bottles, particularly the twist tops. So reality is that is your preferred item for bottling. It's just called a hand capper. They're completely adjustable, so it doesn't matter what size bottle you're using. You put him under, you stick your cap on, put him under, and just pull the handle down and bang, it's capped. It's easy. And bottle sealed. They're easy to come by. I know my local Big W sells them off the shelf, and they're only about, I think they're only about $30 these days. I think when I bought mine, this one was about 50. Really great. And you can move them around, or they've got holes in the base, you can screw them down to a permanent bench if you've got one. And That's what you end up with. A sealed bottle. As I said, a twist top seals fine. No problem. It doesn't move. It's a full seal. No drama at all. You can do that, or go the traditional method. And you need a bottle opener or a lighter or the edge of someone's cupboard, or just some really serious teeth if you're that way inclined. But either way, you end up with a cap beer. So that's bottling, start to finish. Now, you do need to start with clean and sanitised bottles. Always rinse it, like so after you've poured your beer, rinse your bottle out, store it until you're ready to use it, then clean them. I soak them, laundry tub. I just use cheapo nappy wash, basically sodium percarbonate base. You can buy sodium percarbonate in bulk and use it on its own. I can't get any around locally, and by the time I ship it in, it's not really worth the money. I just use the cheap nappy wash. Soak it in that, rinse them out. If you're using pure sodium percarbonate, you don't need to rinse it, you just let them dry. And you can use a bottle tree and hang them on that. They'll dry when your bottle, just pull them off. If you do use the nappy wash or nappy sand or one of those soakers, you do need to rinse it out. You just rinse them with hot water when it's done, and they're fine. And you're good to go. Sugar, fill, cap on top, give them 2 to 3 weeks in a ambient cupboard to come up, for the carbonation to come up. Get your bottles in the fridge for another 2 to 3 weeks and start drinking them. Beautiful. Home brew. Simple. So, any questions? Stick them down the bottom. Happy to have a chat about it. Don't want to have an argument about kegging being a better option or anything like that. That's a whole argument. That's not what we're here about. Okay, it's just simply bottling and the process. If you haven't subscribed to Little John, hit the subscribe button down there in the corner so you get a notification when there's a video up. Come along for the ride. But as for that, that's me for the day. So I'm going to go and finish getting ready so I can bottle this brew up and go for the process myself. So until I see you again, we're brewing beer, we're drinking beer, we're talking beer. Good brewing.